All right, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Humans of Herpetoculture, the inconsistently released show where I, Lucas, take a deep dive with other keepers who have far more knowledge and experience than I do in the world of herps. Today we are extremely fortunate to be joined by one of the most well-known and influential figures in the world of Morelia, Mr. Eric Burke. As the owner of EV Morelia, Eric wears many hats in the world of reptile podcasts, hosting multiple shows, including Morelia Python Radio, Student of the Serpent, and Carpet Cliff Notes. So, Eric, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, man. Yeah, ready. It's weird to be on this side of things, so I don't know about that. One of the most influential Morelia people. I don't know about that, but okay.
He's also very humble. Well, how are you doing? What's been going on in your snake room these days?
Oh man, this is the time of year breeding. I used to always hate this time of year because I just don't like the cold. But becoming a snake breeder, it gets you to be excited about this time of year, it starts to, leaves are changing. Well, at least where I'm at, leaves are changing colors and, it's getting colder and you can see just the difference in your snake. So really it's down to that,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you getting some serious cold weather over that way?
Yeah. But today, this is always the thing. And, breeding, we always preach about watching your snakes and whatnot. And there was a couple years where typically now I would start breeding. In the past, I would cause we're in November, it would be okay, pairs are together, but we keep getting these warm spells. Today it was almost 80 degrees. So,
oh man.
Yeah. So me and Owen, I don't know about other people, but we kind of pushed our breeding season back.
For sure. So yeah. It does kind of seem like the typical seasons are shifting later and later.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I got to be on your show pretty recently, and we talked a little bit about climate change, and that might be part of that regime. Yeah. What we're seeing in terms of warmer early winters, and maybe in certain places the warm-up is even a little bit later. It just all seems to be shifting a little bit. Totally anecdotal, but I've noticed that too. It's very strange. I feel like I remember when I was younger, Octobers were cold. My sister's birthday is in October, right? So it's kind of a milestone in my head, remembering all the things we did for her birthday. It was cold, it was raining, but not anymore. This October we're still on fire and in the 90s. So
well, you got that going for you.
I'm sure there's actual data that we could look at for this, but in terms of observation, I agree. It's very strange. And I wonder how that's impacting wild snakes that need to brumate and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
There.
I guess today, if you're here on the East Coast, if you, had an opportunity, I'm sure people were out seeing, timber rattlesnake dens and stuff. Maybe that the snakes were coming out. They get, a little heat.
Yeah. Totally. I found on a project site last week, I found my first Pacific ringneck,
Oh, wow. Oh yeah. You sent me that picture.
Yeah.
That's cool.
They're not necessarily rare, but I haven't been able to find one for the life of me. And it was weird to see one. It was 40 degrees in the morning out where I was at, but it was probably in the 70s and dude was just crossing the street.
Yeah.
Happy as a clam.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. So to start things off, Humans of Herpetoculture, right? We're all people. We have snakes, but we also have a history, don't we? So I wanted to talk a little bit about your childhood, your upbringing. I want to bring it all the way back. Not calling you old. Not calling you old. I got in trouble with Nick on that one.
Me and Nick are the same age, so we're both old. We've embraced it.
So from what I've heard, just being a fan of your show, it sounds like your dad kept what it sounds like a pretty large collection of giant constrictors and venomous stuff.
Yeah.
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 What was that like?
Well, growing up as a kid, my dad was always into nature and animals and stuff like that. And, you know, that's sort of where I was introduced to David Attenborough. I remember as a kid and watching like, you know, series back in the 80s when David Attenborough was doing that, you know, and, of course we were all a lot younger then, but, yeah, I mean, you know, I always had some type of pet, you know, it was a green anole or some, you know, something like that. My, you know, my dad wanted to sort of, I think maybe live through me, with, you know, getting reptiles and stuff. I think he probably had the same realization that a lot of us have when they move out and they get a house and they become married and established. And then they're like, oh, I can pretty much get whatever I want, you know? And, yeah, so that's sort of how that came.
So
but,
you had reptiles first?
what's that?
Did you were saying you had like green anoles and stuff. Did you have
Yeah.
reptiles before your dad got reptiles?
Yes.
Oh, wow. And then he
Yes.
just blew it out of the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
You and your lizards, I'm getting a rattlesnake.
Yeah. I guess here in the, you know, us Burks don't do anything half-ass, you know. It's like we're all in, you know, it's 100%. But
that's crazy.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I started with that, and then I remember he brought me home a garter snake, and man, I would stare at that thing for hours, just looking at that snake in one of those little critter keeper things, you know,
right?
And like not knowing anything about it or anything, just watching it and just being amazed. Feed it a goldfish, and you know, life is good. And I remember there was a pet shop that was by my house, and I would go there, and at the time they had a ball python in there. And it's so weird how I think, and this is why I always say, like, we always want what we can't have and all this stuff. So like you couldn't find ball pythons back then, but this pet shop had this beautiful normal ball python, and it was like the holy grail for me. You know, it was like, oh my gosh, I got to get my hands on this type of snake. So, you know, years go by or whatever, and the guy at the pet shop wouldn't sell it. And I go to this other pet shop, and they had this big, huge crate that came in. And my dad took me there to get a ball python. And I wanted this one. He kept telling me, no, take this one, take this one, take this one. And I'm like, no, I want this one. And finally he convinced me to take this one. And I was probably like maybe 10, 12 years old, something like that. And I took it, and it turned out that there was two of them in there. They were kind of wrapped together. But I think about that, and like think about that in context of hearing guys, you know, the ball python people talk about when they would get like crates of stuff coming in, and in those crates they would be going through it and see these gold ball pythons and
from
striped
Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. At the time, I never even like thought about anything like that. And I guess because that didn't really exist, so it wasn't even a thought in your mind. The only thing back then that was sort of the thing was having as many species as you could. From a ball python, I bought a Burmese python from, actually it's kind of weird, but it's from a place called Martin's Aquarium. Some people may have heard that in Lizard King and stuff like that.
I think,
but that was,
you guys
down the street. Yeah, it was down the street from Owen, and like that's where he grew up. And there, you know, I don't know. I just find that stuff weird where like
small world,
we could have like bumped into each other and been like,
totally.
Well, maybe a little bit older because Owen is younger than me.
The reptile world is pretty small. I found out like a year ago at Christmas that Riley worked at the Sacramento Zoo with my uncle, Mike.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, no way. Like I listened to that guy on YouTube, but anyway, not to cut you off.
No, yeah, 100%. So I got that, I got that snake. I don't know what it was about Burmese pythons, but I just was fascinated by them.
Was that a normal?
Yep.
Okay.
I actually picked that snake hatching out of an egg. So
wow.
They had this little reptile department, and they had like the clutch of eggs that were in this, you know, cage, and in the cage, the snakes were like pipping out. And, you know, I just was fascinated by that, and I wanted that. So I got that. And, I don't know. I started, you know, as I got older, I think probably the first time I heard Eddie Van Halen, and then the guitar sort of came in. So my dad had a guitar. I had these snakes. He wanted the snakes. I wanted the guitar. We sort of made a trade. And then he just
Okay.
went crazy. He had Burmese pythons, ball pythons, monocle cobras, western diamondbacks, eastern diamondbacks, sidewinders, Mojave rattlesnakes, mangrove snakes, gaboon vipers, tree vipers, cottonmouths, copperheads,
Wow.
big true red tails,
You're
wild caught
like,
retics.
how old when he started getting all this, the venomous?
How old was I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe like 13, 14.
So you're a
something like that.
teenager and you're like, Dad, you can have my Burmese python and my ball python.
Right.
Can I have that guitar? And
Right.
then like, a few blinks later and you had cobras and vipers in your house.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What were you thinking? Were you like, are you Dad's lost his mind?
I'm like, yeah, and it was I never thought about keeping venomous at all. Like, as obviously I'm like 10 to 14 years old. You know what I mean? It probably was kind of great, but I don't know. The 80s were a crazy time.
Right.
And,
I guess it wasn't that hard for him to get if he had a collection like that too.
No, you know what it was? It's like they had this pet shop, and you would go to the pet shop, and in the back of the pet shop, they would have a door. You'd knock on the door, you'd go into the room, and then you'd go in, and there's all these. Yeah, exactly. It was crazy. It was kind of weird.
Wow.
About it now, but like,
okay,
you'd go in there and like, whatever you wanted, you could get. You just said, "Oh, I want X," and next thing you know, next week it would be sitting there, and
wow,
you could get it. Yeah, it was kind of
that's
wild.
incredible.
Wild times.
Where were these kept? In your house?
So my dad redid his entire the basement.
Okay.
And he redid it all. And I think the thing that I think about is like, and I guess sometimes I get to relive these memories, like when I'm talking to a guy like Keith McPeak, who kind of was my dad's age and was going through that same type of thing at the time. So he knows what it was like at that time. And like when you talk about it, I'm just having these memories of like, I never forget. I go downstairs and there's this big tank and it's got 2 rattlesnakes in it. And like, I'm just like, oh my God, that's a rattlesnake.
When did these get here, Dad?
like, wait, what is this? But he did, he never handled anything, never went crazy that way. He, at the time that none of the equipment that we have today existed. So he was pretty handy. So what he did is he kind of made these trap boxes, right? And he would build the cage, and then he would have a dowel rod that would, come down, and he would be able to close the door to the trap box and just sort of like, close it down. The snake's in there. We go in, clean the snakes, blah, 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 blah. And that was
gotcha.
Good.
So he was pretty hands off.
Oh yeah, he never handled
nice.
Much.
He wasn't in it the way that a lot of venomous keepers on YouTube are these days. Look at my king cobra.
Yeah. But
that's awesome. So you had
monocle. It was cool. Oh, there you go, man. Yeah. and again, that was another one. Like you only see these things on TV, and at the time there was no Steve Irwin or anything like that when I was growing up. So it was like you're seeing these things, and you're kind of like, wow, I can't believe this is in my basement.
And it sounds like it was a pretty wide array from a lot of different places in the world. I would imagine the information at that time wasn't as in depth in terms of husbandry requirements and whatnot. Like, was it kind of a trial and error thing to keep those things thriving and feeding and whatnot?
Yeah. I mean, I think back then there was no social media. There was no, none of these, there was no internet. So there was no, like, you sort of like, you got a book, you read the book, you kind of made your best judgment on like, what you think that snake would want. And I think like when I look at somebody like my dad, and I try to figure out how a guy like that could keep these things alive without any of, heat panels or heat tape,
thermostats,
any of this stuff. And I think it's just because they paid attention to the snakes. And I think sometimes
imagine that.
And I think sometimes the idea, and that's a lot of where I get that idea from, I think. But I think a lot of times we have these ideas of what these snakes need or can tolerate, or like, and they're a lot, stronger, I guess, or to survive than we think,
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Okay, teenage Eric, venomous reptiles everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, did you enjoy that? Did you spend time down there looking at things, or was it kind of like, dad's in the basement again playing with his killer snakes? Like, I'm going out. Like,
I did. So, it's funny. Like, I just get obsessed with things, right? And guitar became my new obsession. And I practice, 6 to 8 hours a day. And like,
I can understand that.
Yeah, you can relate, right?
Yeah.
And I would just go downstairs, and because it was calm and peaceful, and he had like I don't know, like nature sounds going on in the thing.
Wow.
And it's kind of cool how he had it set up. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I would just go down there and practice, and practice with the snakes, just doing what they're doing. And yeah, so I mean, I would help him with stuff, and if he was away, I would change waters and stuff like that, or feed them or whatever. But again, always hands off, never.
Right.
It's not like my dad said, "Yeah, go get that monocle cobra and put it
so
in there."
There were rules.
Yes. Yeah. Everything was locked and all that. So even the basement was locked, so you couldn't get into the basement.
Were you allowed to bring friends down there?
Oh man, back then the whole neighborhood would like want to come. It was like, the Burke Zoo would be like,
yeah, it sounds like
check it out,
You got rainforest sounds and everything. Like,
yeah,
I want to hang out at the Burke Zoo. Jeez.
Yeah. But yeah, he had caiman, tegus, turtles, rhino vipers, garter snakes, rat snakes, tree boas. I mean,
wow.
And back then it was kind of and you sort of see a resurgence of that now. You see people talk about it, where people are getting back into species and moving away from like just working with one species and maybe having a little bit of diversity in their collection, But back then it was all diversity,
Right. And you have siblings, right?
Yeah. At the time, I grew up with all sisters. My brother is 20. Well, my two brothers are 21 and 22 years.
Okay.
Or 23 years difference than me.
Got it. So, what did sisters think of venomous Burke Zoo?
Yeah, they didn't. They wanted no parts of that.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's amazing. I mean, what a unique way to come up around nature,
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds great, to be honest, but
yeah, like a lot of times I hear people come on and like they'll come on NPR and they'll talk about how they got into reptiles and stuff, and you'll hear them say their story, and 9 times out of 10 it's always that well, my parents wouldn't let me have a snake, but they would let me have X. And I'm just like, oh man, I feel bad for you. I can't relate to that. Like,
I gave my dad a ball python. It was a gateway drug to the entire zoo.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool though. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm in awe of that. That is wild. How long was your dad keeping before he decided to kind of get out of things as well? Sounds like recently he's getting into anoles.
Yeah.
but
well, he just got another one, which I see the dominoes starting to fall. It was he got an emerald green skink or something. Yeah, that was
emerald swift skink.
Swift, yeah, that's
it. We had some of those at the vivarium. Pretty little dudes. Yeah. I
don't know. I think he was into it for maybe like I kind of remember he was just getting out of it probably around the time I moved out, which was maybe like I think it was 18 or 19 years old, something like that. So
for sure. Yeah. And there was never any incidents with the venomous stuff. Any close calls or escapees?
No. I think he might have had one. But he kind of I can't remember what he was doing. I can't remember if he's feeding or whatever, but some kind of viper struck at him, and I remember he just was sitting on the steps just sitting there, and I'm like, what's the matter?
Like, what's up?
Oh man, nothing. Nothing. Never mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that'll shake you up for sure.
Yeah. Later on, he told me that took a strike at him and kind of made him shit his pants.
Wow. Yeah. And so even after all that, it's never become a desire for you to work with any of those species that you grew up around in a way?
No, I don't know. I this is another question I often wonder of, like, what drives people to work with what they work with. Like, why am I a Python guy and why is somebody else a boa guy and why is somebody else a colubrid? Like what is it about those species that you're attracted to or whatever? But no, I mean, I don't know. I want to be able to go into my snake room and, like, just kind of not feel like, I
Not
might
fear
die.
death.
I might die. I can appreciate them. I prefer them see, like, venomous snakes in the wild,
Gotcha. Where you can run for
stand
miles
back.
and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, there's no corners. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. That makes sense. Nice. So fast forward to present, Eric.
Yeah.
What is your personal life look like? What do you do outside of snakes these days?
Like, what do I do for a living?
Sure.
I am a store director at a multi-million-dollar supermarket.
Okay.
That's sort of my I'm in charge of the whole thing. Other than that, I music is my other passion.
Yeah.
I love music. I love all
Awesome.
kinds of music. I love playing music. I love listening to new people. Um,
So
I
guitar is
just
still
geek out
big for
about it.
you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
100%. Always will be, I think. And oddly enough, one thing I've gotten into recently is hiking.
Okay.
I guess that's sort of reptile related, but
Right.
I don't know, just being out, and I'm not even necessarily looking for reptiles. If I find one, that's great. But just being out in nature and just seeing the environment, and I think I kind of look at it as like class, if you will. Like, I really believe that, if you really want to learn about the species you keep, getting out in that environment and really feeling what it feels like and what's going
Right.
on and stuff like that. I know that's easier said than done for guys like us who keep Australian snakes and
It's a good
stuff.
point though. I did a little a Q&A thing with some of my followers on Instagram, and one
Right.
of the questions was how field biology as my day job affects and informs my keeping. And
Right.
that was a really good question that got me thinking about kind of just what you're talking about. And I feel like what it is it's being mindful of ecology and
Right.
and understanding that these snakes that we keep are part of something so much bigger,
Yes.
and it's all connected, right? So when you're going for a hike or when I'm out on like a project site, even if we don't see a reptile that day,
Right.
granted we're in an area where we know they're there, we're
Right.
still seeing the ecosystem with them in mind, right? Maybe even if all you see all day is a rock, just a rock,
Yeah.
you maybe you're thinking that would be a good rock for X to hide under or bask on top of. It's right next to this bush. Like, what good
Sure.
what good
Yeah.
habitat, like.
Exactly.
So I think that what it does, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is it really just broadens the scope from snake in box to piece of an ecosystem that
Yes.
is here, that everything it does is in the wild would be reliant upon both living and non-living factors.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I don't know if
I
I
think
said that extremely well, but you get my you get my drift.
I gotcha. Yeah, I think it was my trip to Australia with Keith and Rob and Owen and such, is that Keith really tuned us into the whole environment rather than just what we were focused on, and how it kind of like all sort of worked together in this perfect system that just, I don't know, man, it just
Yeah.
fascinates me that the way nature works. It's like how one thing is there and it's helping another and it's feeding off another, and if that one thing is not there and this thing is there, you know what I mean? And if you pull one of those things out, it really screws up the whole chain of things and can really wreak
Yeah.
havoc on the environment. And I don't know, it just gets you thinking about how it's all tied together. I really think that like our understanding of snakes is still in its infancy. You know, I mean, there's so much to learn. They're so hard to study. I would imagine you maybe have better insight than me, but like so hard to study in the wild. Like, you know, how do you, you know, one of the things that, you know, when we were in Australia, we were talking about with Gavin Bedford was he was explaining like where the baby Darwin carpets are. And he was saying that they were all in the bottom of the bush. And I'm thinking like, you know, well, how do we know that they're there? Well, he saw them. So on this recent trip when it was me and Justin Julander and Rob and Owen, we were having this conversation about how I don't feed my baby snakes through the cool down, right? I do the same thing to them that I do to my adults, right? And to me, I'm thinking like my thought process was, well, they're going to be better conditioned. But, you know, Justin really brought up a good point. He's like, well, how do we know what they're doing? And I'm like,
right.
Well,
Son of a bitch.
I'm like, I don't. Damn you and your logic.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I would imagine they're hard to study. How do you track them? You know, I mean,
right.
You know, so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I hope to know more about all that soon. But even just with the work that I've been doing, with there's a species of whip snake out where I'm at, Alameda whip snake. It's like a little pocket surrounded by chaparral whip snake of this different species that is federally listed endangered. And one of the things that we were looking at, my team was getting trained to go do some work in their remaining range, right? Because it has shrunk quite a bit, but the Parks District out here is trying to protect what's left. And one of the things we looked at is a different environmental consulting company had done telemetry data with a certain population of adults. And I believe what that means is literally just microchipping them and seeing where they go. Which right. Like we talked about on NPR, you can do that with an adult, but can't really do that with a baby, especially for a colubrid like that, where babies are probably hatching underground and not likely to be found above ground until they've gained size.
Sure.
So
yeah, it's just, you know, it doesn't even matter, I think, what species you keep. I think that, like I said, I still think there's so much to learn about snakes. And yeah, we've been successful with keeping them in captivity and breeding them. And, you know, but like, I don't know. And we've talked about this before on NPR, but like, I don't know what it is about the snake section of the hobby that like they kick and scream. Like, well, you know, you look at like the dart frog community and stuff like that. And like, they're just like, you know, they're like levels above snake keepers. And you see a lot of good things happening where they're, you know, somebody like Lori comes to mind when it comes to that stuff. Like she's actually, you know, trying to figure it out, not just going by like what we think or, you know,
right.
Or, you know, put our own preconceived notions of things into, you know, like, oh, I believe this. And then, oh, look, the snake did that. So that must be true, you know?
Absolutely.
But,
absolutely.
Yeah. You know, like, I think, I don't know if she said this to me in a message or it was on another podcast or whatever, but she was talking about like bread lye. And she was talking about how they use the humid hides a lot.
Right.
Which
bread
is like,
lye, humidity, what?
Wait a minute. And then I thought about it and I'm like, well, maybe that's why they're going in those tree stumps and stuff like that and the rotting vegetation. And, you know, I mean, you know,
there was a clip too on Facebook, wasn't there, that somebody threw up, maybe it was Casey Cannon, of a bread lye in like a creek.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe a year ago or so. Like I remember seeing
Is that the one where the parrot came down to?
Yeah. Got nailed. Yeah.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
That was so cool.
Awesome
right. I mean, at least for me, when I think of bread lye, or I guess technically it's breadly, but that's less fun. I think of dry, desert, you know, maybe only ephemeral waterways, like when it rains during that very short wet season. But maybe that's not entirely the case in their micro habitats where they're hanging out, like you were talking about tree hollows and whatnot. So that is fascinating, because I think it's typical to not provide them with
Yeah.
any sort of human hide. And,
Yeah. 100%.
they seem to shed fine for the most part, but maybe that doesn't tell the whole story.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where, you don't necessarily need it, but maybe it's making the snake more comfortable. Maybe
Right.
I'm saying is total bullshit and it doesn't mean anything. I mean, who knows? But like, unless we're trying to push the hobby forward, UV is another one that comes up. Like,
Yes.
I think of diamond pythons, and I think like, how can they not need UV? Like,
Right.
how can they not? They're basking in the sun. Like, I would imagine that
nature made them black to soak up as much of that heat and radiation as possible.
100%. I'm in the process of changing my diamonds over to more of that type of setup where they're lights to bask and UV bulbs and stuff like that.
Very cool.
So more than any of the other carpets. I mean, not that I'm saying that they're not as easy, but to me, that snake in particular has evolved to use the sun to survive.
Right.
So
right.
That's where I'm going to start. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we have to think about these things in a species specific way, right? Like, a green tree deep in a vine forest where it's so thick in the canopy that the sun barely even comes through anyway is probably a lot less reliant than the diamond.
Right.
And look at their phenotype, green and blue and yellow versus jet black.
Right.
With speckles of coloration,
right.
That probably tells us something right there.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
That'll be really cool. I'm excited to see what you notice with that.
I know that a couple people that I was going to say, I know that a couple people that I know that, I think of Keith with his Bolins, they bask in that UV. They use that, which would make sense. Again, same type of situation, just different part of the world.
Right.
But Bolin and I have, evolved to use the sun and, and I love the way he thinks. Like, okay, it's like, you're up here, you got some cloud cover for a while, and then the sun comes back out. And, one of the thought processes was that, in captivity, we're just giving them 8 hours of UV and heat. Whereas in the wild, they may take, it's sort of like, I guess it would be like, if you never think you're going to eat again, you're just going to load up on food if you're not going to eat for a while because you don't want to starve to death. But then, like, if you don't put yourself in a situation where you're not going to have food and you continually have food, eventually there you go, balling out. I like it.
You're going to take advantage of this video thing.
Yeah, there you go. You're going to, you're going to hurt your body rather than help your body. So meaning that, like, these Bolini are maybe exposed to a couple hours of UV, but they're going to, if they have 8 hours of UV, they're going to say, well, I'm going to take advantage of this because tomorrow there might be no UV. So I'm just going to bask here for a long time. And, like, maybe it's not, good for them to do it that long, So
right.
His idea was turning it off and on, so that it's similar to, like, like I was saying, like clouds and stuff that are rolling in that, but totally. Those are the type of things that I geek out about,
Agreed. 100%. This whole conversation too, just like wild snake behavior and trying to interpret it. It reminds me of this one situation. I'll just share this story really quickly before we move on. During those coverboard surveys, I was out in Livermore, California. It's a little bit more of like a grassy, warm, like valley. And there was a bunch of coverboards, aluminum boards set up. And, we found these whip snake, we found racers and California kings and stuff like that. But there was one board in particular that was remarkable in that it had on the left-hand side a wood rat nest with a female wood rat hanging out.
Okay.
And on the right-hand side, Pacific rattlesnake hanging out right next to each other. And for weeks, both of those creatures were exactly where you left them, underneath the board. And the biologist, the permitted biologist who we were out with, who is a long time wildlife biologists in the area, we were trying to figure out why the hell hasn't this rattlesnake just taken the free lunch, right?
Right.
And one thing that I was thinking, and I still, we never figured this out. It doesn't make any sense. If you filmed it and put it on Facebook as like rattlesnake and wood rat make friends, it probably would be viral. It probably would have been on Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. But,
right.
Knowing better than that, like,
right.
obviously if the rattlesnake was hungry and wanted to eat that, it would. I'm thinking my thought was maybe, and this is totally unsubstantiated, like just rambling, maybe that wood rat kept attracting mates. Like maybe that female on her nest, like maybe males were coming to try and I don't know much about wood rat ecology, but maybe she was attracting mates and the rattlesnake knew that he would just have this endless stream of boys coming through.
Huh.
I said that, and the other biologist was just like, yeah, maybe, So, but yeah, I'll never forget that particular situation because it makes absolutely no sense. And I think it just speaks again to intelligence in creatures that we like to think as unintelligent.
Right.
And the fact that we don't understand all the choices they make. And maybe there's more work to be done into understanding. So yeah, just a really weird ecological thing going on there that
that's
I don't
cool.
know. I can't wait to go back to that board this spring and see if anybody won the battle. By the end of it, the wood rat was still there and the rattlesnake had taken off. So
okay.
Very strange. Anyway. So moving on.
Yep.
You have many, many snakes.
Yes.
in the hundreds, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And despite being, a very recognizable name in Morelia, you have chosen to move away from selling babies in terms of like a quote business, it sounds like. So what is the driving force behind that? Like, why are you choosing to go to the direction of maybe selling less babies, maybe breeding less, rather than kind of the typical progression that people shoot for, which would be like growing your company, selling as many babies as possible, building your snake empire and going full time?
Right. Honestly, I don't know why. I guess probably early on, when I first started breeding, one of the things that I think I heard this, I can't remember where I heard this, but they said about how a lot of people don't take the time to hold back animals, and that they're always into selling them, and they never learn about how to pick out a good one, or like see what the progression is like, or I don't know, it just said to me, like I remember saying this to Owen too, like, Owen, I'm going to hold back my first clutch. I'm going to hold back everything. He's like, you're insane. What are you doing? Why would you do that? And I'm just like, because I want to be able to, if somebody comes to me and they say, how does this turn out? Or what do you think that's going to happen with this? I want to be able to at least have it. You're never going to nail it all the time, right? But I want to have a kind of an understanding that when I look at this, that's probably going to turn out like that, right? So that's sort of maybe how it started. But I don't know. I don't know, man. I guess I deal with customers all day long, and I deal with the BS that comes along with that.
Oh, the worst in people comes out in supermarkets too, doesn't it?
Yeah. So this is supposed to be an escape for me, and like, I got to be honest, I have given away more snakes than I've sold, and to me, I don't know, that's what it's about. I know I'm not taking away from, because you need people that do it for a living to so that I can buy snakes. You know what I mean? So like, you need those guys. You need like Nick and Justin and these guys, so that, there's always a stream coming in from me. But I don't do it for a living. I sell some, to people that I know. I kind of like the idea of like the more and more that I do this, the more and more I don't even want to really be on social media. Like,
Right.
it's, I don't know. It's people get caught up in this dumbest things that they argue about. And it's like, man, this is supposed to be an escape. This is supposed to be,
Mhm.
you know, and I take to heart people that say, do you do this for the money? And you do, you know, I remember when I was getting into morphs, I got a lot of hate in the early days because I was kind of a new person coming into it. And they're like, look, even Owen was one that hated me. Like, you know, like, who is this Burke guy coming into my territory? I'm gonna get him buying up all the morphs and everything. Every time I go to buy a snake, it's Burke's got it, you know. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So I always kind of like that, like Gary Valle, his idea that, you know, you have to have like a special code to get his email, and you have to know somebody that knows somebody in order to get his email. I'm a little more out there than that, but like,
Right.
I don't know. I just, to me, it's about the snakes, you know, it
Hmm.
really is. It's not about money. It's not about any of that stuff. And I don't know. I don't know. I just,
Very cool.
that's how I am, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm opposed to selling snakes. I'm not at all.
Right.
You know.
No, I mean, I will say that I personally, I think that's very admirable, and it shows that you are doing this for good reasons. But you know, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, would you say that you pair less now, less clutches a year, than you used to maybe a decade ago or so?
No, that doesn't change. You know, that
Okay.
doesn't change. But you know, as of the past couple years, I have been very selective in what I'm pairing. You know, I think for a while, I would say mid carpet python career, I kind of got swept up in the morph thing, and not so much even just like trying to sell the morphs. I just wanted to see what they were going to look like. Like,
Right.
what does this combination look like? You know, and a lot of it has been done, and you know, the coolest things that I get to see are the stuff in Australia, you know, like those guys down there with the morphs that they're, you know, I don't know if you saw that inland, that melanistic inland that somebody posted up.
No, I haven't
See
seen that
that?
one yet. Was that today?
I think it was yesterday.
Okay.
Somebody tagged me in it. And, you know, even that's humbling. Like, I'm sitting there and somebody tagged me and they put Nick Mutton, Paul Harris, and Eric Burke. I'm like, how am I even in this mix? Like,
See,
I don't
that's what I'm
deserve to be in
saying.
this mix. Like,
Influential and recognizable.
like, what are you doing? I'm not, you know, like, I don't know. I just, to me, they're like my heroes. And
Right.
like, you know what I mean? You know how that goes. It's like
Absolutely.
when
Absolutely.
you know, it's like with music, you know, if you're like into so like you just never feel that you're going to be on the level of whatever that musician is that you look up to. You know?
Yeah. No, I do know what you mean. I will say though that I think that you are that person for a lot of people. And you know, I'm sure it's weird to hear and think about, but you know,
Yeah.
a little pat on the back for
Yeah.
Eric too.
Well,
There's
I mean,
different. Oh, sorry.
I
Go ahead.
think no, I was going to say I think with carpet pythons, like I just love them, man. I don't know what it is about them. I don't know. I don't know why. I try to figure it out. I don't know why I'm drawn to it. You know, all the Australia people tell me they're crappets and like,
Right.
you know, it's just like, I don't care. I love them. You know, they're talking about, you know, oh, look at this brown snake. You know, Scott Hyper's always sending me his venomous stuff. But he did send me a picture of his imbricata that were breeding in
Oh,
his
cool.
backyard. I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
oh. You know.
Did see a picture of Embricata on the page recently, I thought.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Like a
but,
close-up headshot. Did you see that one?
oh yeah, that was on Herping the Globe or something. And that's another
Yeah.
cool thing. Like everybody's always sending me pictures of wild carpets, which I just love, you know. It's just I geek out
That's
about
awesome.
that.
Yeah. There was the one with the guy relocating that incredible diamond recently.
Yeah.
That like
I saw that.
vibrant diamond. That thing was insane. But anyway. Totally. Now, oh yeah, backtracking just a bit. Was there a point in your progression with this, if you will, where you did want to grow up EB Morelia and maybe try to be full-time, or was that never even an aspiration? Was that
No, it
never?
was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. I had that, and you know, Um, you know, Nick has been one of those guys that have sort of like influenced me a lot in this hobby, especially with carpets. He's sort of like he's my Obi-Wan Kenobi, I guess, if you will. You know what I mean? But um, I just remember things that he told me, and like, and he's a smart guy, and he's like, I asked him, I'm like, what do you think, Nick? Do you think I should do this full time? Do you think I should give it a go? And he's just like, man, how much longer till you retire? And I was like, well, I could probably retire in like maybe 15 years or so. And, he's just like, well, I think I would probably ride it out. And then once you retire, so the plan is that once I retire, then I would do it full time.
I see. Gotcha.
But even then, I don't know if I would. I'm not going to be like this mass producer of it. Right. Just would be, just extra stuff, but.
Gotcha. You're not going to become Eric Burke, Triple L Reptile, Carpet Mill.
No.
No shaded LLL. I just grasped for a name right there. Very cool. All right. One sec. I can't stand the sun in my eye. I'll be right back.
Yeah. No
I'll edit this out. Okay. Better.
There you go.
Sorry, black-headed python. No sunlight this afternoon. See, just like I was telling you, like right at 4:00, perfectly hits the cages.
There
All right,
go.
And we're back. So you kind of touched on this a little bit already, but what would be the long-range goals for your collection, if you have even thought that out? Things that, like when the sun sets on EB Morelia, what is it that you want to have accomplished or tried to accomplish that you haven't already?
So for a while, ever since I was young, I wanted to work with as many species of pythons as I could. Right. I went through stages where I would want to work with, every species and try to breed them and, all this stuff, not realizing what that endeavor actually entails. Like, I think my goals were bigger than reality of what that is going to entail. So I've worked with a lot of different python, almost most of them, really. But I think for me, my love is Australia. I just, there's something about that place. I feel like I talk about it too much to where people are like, would you shut up about Australia already, But I don't know. It's just I don't know. That's it for me. Maybe Steve Irwin influenced that, I'm sure that probably had a little bit of influence on that for me. But my goal really is first would be to breed all the species of carpet pythons,
Okay.
Like, that would be the big one,
Get Imbricata over here.
Yeah. And then the other one would be to work with all the species of Australian pythons. So maybe one day there'll be Owen Pellies here. Maybe one day there'll be Imbricata here. I hold out hope,
Totally.
But that would be even more so. Like, a lot of people are enamored with Boland's pythons, and I'm not knocking Boland's pythons at all. But for me, Owen Pelly is the holy grail.
Okay.
There's just that snake has such a mystique about it. It's I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's got folklore behind. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe because it's so rare. Maybe because we saw it. Maybe because I don't know. But that would be.
Yeah, I mean, you're more connected to that snake now than a lot of Australians, just by the fact that you actually found one and got hands on.
Yeah, they hate us for that.
Oh man, I remember because I was following the show, religiously at the time too. I was still in my senior year at college when you guys were going on that trip. And I remember before, you were all just joking, like, what if we found an Owen Pelly? Like, everyone's going to hate us.
Yeah. Nobody believed us when we told them. I'm like, yeah, I swear to God.
Not to put you on the spot, you said there's like mythology, like about, or folklore about them. Like, what is that?
Well, just them being the Aboriginal people look at that snake as they hold it in high regard, and um, you know really, is it the I know the rainbow serpent is more tied towards water pythons and stuff,
Right.
but it sort of has like a similar type of tail, if you will.
Gotcha.
And I
That's
guess the
awesome.
fact that it's not seen all the time too
Right.
adds to that, but
Very cool.
yeah, I see that Owen Pelly right back there,
Yeah.
man. They change color, oh man, they're just something
Wow.
else. Yeah,
I'm excited to see what Nick writes about them in the new edition of the book. It sounds like he's going to have a section on Owen Pelly to
if
some
I'm not
extent.
mistaken, we sent him the picture of the one we found, so I don't know if that's going to make it or not make the cut. But man, that would be cool.
That would
forever,
be awesome. Immortalized.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
That trip.
So yeah, talking about your goal to keep and breed every species of python available. That, like you said, when you were aiming to do that, maybe you didn't completely understand what it would entail. So that being said, are you no longer on that quest?
I don't want to say yes and no, because things change. If all of a sudden I've bred all the species of Australian pythons, maybe I'll be like, oh well, I got to try something new. I don't know, but really for me, I sort of like, you kind of have to pick like what direction you're going to go, and for me, it's really Australian pythons is where I'm at. So I've kind of purged everything else, I think. Except for IJs. They're
right. I was going to ask, does that extends to New Guinea and surrounding islands?
Only with IJs.
Okay. Not bull and eye, not Morelia Azuria.
I would probably work with, Merauke chondros, because that's the closest you can get to, I guess, what would be in Australia, but
right.
Yeah. Bull and eye, I don't know. I like bull and eye. They're a magnificent snake. I mean,
you've been hands-on, right? At
yes,
Keith's?
A couple times. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And super impressive, but it is just this black scrub python, I mean, this is what it is. But I know some people think that they're a little more than that, but I just think that they're a specialized scrub python, similar to like diamond pythons with carpets. But yeah, I don't know. They're cool. I just don't know if I would be able to take care of them properly. I think I couldn't do both, and Australia wins. So
got it. Okay. So if Keith does produce and he says, Eric, I want you to work with this pair, you would say no, you think? I would say yes. I'll just throw that out there right now.
I don't, currently, if you were asking me today, I would say yes. I mean, I would say yes. I would say no.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That was kind of confusing. Yes, I know. I would say not at this moment that I want to.
Gotcha.
But that may fall into a thing like Keith did. He worked with short tails forever, and then he wanted something different, something to try to take his breeding to the next level, and he chose that species. Maybe that's the route that I'll be at someday. Maybe. Who knows?
Gotcha. Well, for our listeners out there, if you want a Boland's python, I think there's 3 on Morph Market right now, upwards of $8,000.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
I saw one that's up there, like a 2015 for 10 grand. So it's just strange to me if you have something like that you put it on Morph Market of all places. It just seems,
no kidding.
Yeah, that seems odd. Yeah. Like maybe call somebody that is working with them and doing good work.
I think that's another thing that turns me off to stuff like that, is the price of it. That price is ridiculous. It's insane. Just ridiculous.
Yeah. Could buy like 3 Les Pauls with that.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's crazy. That's crazy. And when you talk to the people that are really into bull and eye, I think they don't agree with that price either. It's just like, see, it's just, And this is sort of like, maybe this ties back into the conversation we were having about, like, what is it about selling snakes that I don't like? And it's kind of that, it's like, I don't really give two shits about the snake, but now all of a sudden it's worth money. So now everybody cares about it. And it's like, but they've been here forever, like,
Right.
What is it? What's the king snake? I always forget it. Mexican black king snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
They were the
FPKs.
same thing. I think Maclots and Savu pythons are the same way right now.
Right.
They're like, I
Dumerals, boas.
Yeah. It's like I bought a Maclots pythons for, I think it was $85. And I'm not saying that they should be $85, but now they're like $700.
Right.
Like, wait,
Right.
what? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like, at least for the Bolins, for sure too. I think that there's a group of people that view it as more of a status thing, and like a buy your way into the
Yes.
top of the reputation board,
Yes.
if you will.
Yes.
And I think that that's bullshit, to be frank.
I'm with you. I agree.
It's they're not cars.
Yes. Yeah.
They are living, breathing creatures.
a species like that requires very specific care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not
and
something
care that we're still figuring out, right? People like Ari and whatnot.
Yeah. 100%.
Still dialing it in. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't, that turns me off, that whole chasing the money and chasing the, I don't know.
Absolutely. I agree. So with that being said, many species, you've probably checked off quite a few of those species on that list in terms of keeping and breeding and whatnot. But carpets are number one. And I know you said earlier that you've been trying to figure out why that is, and you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But is there something that you could speak to that makes them your favorite, and more specifically Papuans as a subset of that group in particular?
So I think probably part of it has to do with the people, like the people that keep those snakes, right? I found that at the time when I was getting back into snakes, I was almost going to try ball pythons. I almost went that route because it just seemed like that's what everybody was doing. And I just didn't like a lot of the people. You know what I mean? Like, it just seemed like, and I don't mean like they were assholes or anything. I just didn't like their ideas of, like, to me, they were more concerned with the paint job. And I've said this a couple times, than like what's going on underneath the hood. Like,
Right.
like, I want to understand how that thing, how does it go? What makes it tick? Like, what, to me, that's what I geek out about. Like, the natural history of snakes is like, and in Texas, Justin was talking to us about, just like his thoughts on carpet pythons and, why there's different, subspecies. And it's just like, I could have listened to him for hours. Like,
Totally.
you know what I mean? Like, he was totally like just talking about stuff that like just blew my mind. Just like the natural history. What is it doing in its environment? How is it surviving? When does it breed? How often does it breed? Like, where is it going when it breeds? All these things that, I don't know.
That's awesome.
It just seemed like that the ball python community was more concerned. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, because we're all different in what makes us happy about the hobby. Some people geek out about the genetics. I look at a guy like Justin Kabilka, who is like, he's just like, he's has vision, and he has ideas of like where he's going to take this stuff and how he's going to, like, I wonder how this gene works with this gene. And like, I geek out about that too, but
sure,
it's not all about that for me. It's more about the species.
Ball python communities don't tend to obsess over natural history and ecology.
Yes. Yeah. You don't hear a discuss, like, you're going to hear many carpet python people, Morelia people will show you a picture of a wild snake and geek out about, like, like we were talking earlier.
Or talk about like, oh, this one's from Brisbane. This one's from Queensland,
exactly.
Where's the ball python from? Africa?
Yeah, exactly. And it's you don't really see them talking about that aspect of them. Like, and to me, that's what excites me. And, if that's not what excites other people, then so be it. But I think that sort of was like the first draw was that. And then they're just the perfect snake, man. I mean, like they're so easy to keep, and they're so forgiving of keeper error, and they get a decent size to where you got a decent sized snake. But at the same time, as growing up with large constrictors and stuff, the older you get, man, that's harder and harder when you're shoveling shit with a shovel, like a real shovel. It's kind of like, wait, what am I doing?
Right.
So the fact that they come in all different colors and patterns and stuff. What led me to
Yeah.
IJs,
shapes and sizes too.
Yeah. What led me to them, again, was probably another huge influence with me in the hobby was a guy named Luke Snell. And, Luke was he had a business called Morelia Wonderland, and he was like the first collection of carpets that I got to see as adults. Not at there you go.
That's yours.
Yeah, there you go. I was like, wait a minute, I know that snake. I think he's in that same position right now.
Awesome.
But yeah, I went to his place, and he was working a lot with IJs, and he had a lot of like Yasser stuff, who's kind of come back into the world. But it seems like he's working more with colubrids nowadays than he is with pythons and stuff. But like, he had amazing IJs, like amazing. They were mind blowing. And I'm sitting there, and everybody's focused on these jungle carpets, and I'm like, okay, I get it. They're beautiful. Hard to compete with a yellow and black snake.
Sure.
Seeing it across the room, it's neon yellow, jet black, and you're like, oh my God, that thing is crazy. But it seemed like the other species, whatever you want to say, is who knows what it's going to be. I guess we'll have to wait till the book comes out to find out what the new stuff is. But I thought, man, sort of thinking in the lines of Kobelka is like, I have this vision that I can make these snakes look like those snakes, but they're just going to be different. And
right.
Like a lot of people at that time, they hated them, man. They hated them. They're like, oh man, there's just a brown dirt snake. And when you're having to compete with a bumblebee ball python and a jungle jag and gamma jags and all this stuff, which is amazing stuff, it's hard to convince somebody that this brown snake is. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Sure.
But now you're seeing
variable.
A lot of and you're seeing a lot of people now that's starting to pay off. And I think of like Craig Woods. I think of Carlos. I think of Riley. I think of Jacob and Billy Hunt and all these guys that are sort of like working. I hope that I had a little bit of an influence on that. Like,
right.
Kind of like, like, hey guys, there's other carpets over here. Check these out,
And Owen in the background going, no, get them out of here.
I hate them. And
terrible animals.
The funny thing is, in the early days, he didn't hate them.
Oh,
he hates them because he couldn't breed them. And when Nick came on the show and said, well, I could, IJs breed with your eyes closed, he was defeated. He's just like, oh man.
Brutal.
I can't believe
Absolutely brutal.
Yeah. But
yeah, I plan to ask him about that. He's going to come on in a week or two, and we'll talk.
Cool.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I couldn't just have you on and not ask him. We'd hurt his feelings.
100%. Yeah, be like, why don't they ask me to come on shows?
Yeah, I loved it at the beginning of that recent episode. He's like, nobody sends me gifts. Like, but anyway, I think that definitely when I think of Papuans, my favorite look, because they are so variable, is the ones with that beautiful orange flaming just kind of on the bottom of their sides. Like that can be so vibrant and contrast with the dark, like sometimes black dorsal side. So really, really beautiful snakes. And like you talk about the big heads too.
Oh yeah, those big chunky heads.
Yeah.
I love that.
As a bredli guy, like I love the big chunky heads.
Yeah, man. You see
awesome
big jowl muscles in the back.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's badass. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I love them.
Excellent. So I heard that you purged all your jags.
I did.
Got all the jags out of the room. I was wondering if you would talk a little bit about why you chose to do that, and whether that is a reflection of the jag morph in particular or just morph projects in general.
So I've always I came up into carpets when the debate was that, first of all, the first debate was, we can make a leucistic live, and people would go back and forth and, argue about it forever. And the other one is that they don't all have neurological issues. Some don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. They all have it.
Agreed.
It's just a matter of when it's going to show it, right? I've had snakes that I've had for years and never shown any signs. We're fine, no problems. And then one day, like a light switch, then all of a sudden your snake's upside down in the tub. I think for me, it was probably more the babies that I was producing that kind of like, there you go. I mean, they're beautiful. And that's what's so hard about it, is they're so pretty, man. I mean, they reduce the pattern, the yellow intensifies, there are 2 jags that I did keep. And the reason I kept them was just because I didn't want, they've been in my collection forever and they're kind of like sentimental to me. So I kept them.
Totally.
All the other ones I gave to Owen.
Gave to the other guy.
At this point, but he's probably like, at the time he's like, cool.
All these snakes you gave me are upside down and hitting their heads on things.
I think that's what it was though. Like, I produced gelatin jungles the past couple of years, pop ones, just straight pop ones the past couple of years. And like, citrus tigers and red tigers and stuff like that. And like, when you produce them, there's no problems. Like, it's and like, and then when I'm making an albino zebra jag, I think that was it, right? When I produced albino zebra jags, and I go by what Nick was telling me, he's like, well, when you take broken genes and you just stack them on top of each other. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard that speech.
Well, we just all love broken snakes. Like,
yeah. Clearly it's not, I can hear him saying, clearly it's not,
well, you're just making a bunch of mutants, aren't you?
Yeah. But, I don't know. It just, the last year was just like, man, like, look at these and look at these. What am I doing? Like, I'm not doing this for a business. I'm not doing this for a living. I'm not against jags. I don't have a problem with people keeping jags. I think it's just a personal decision that you have to make for yourself,
Yeah. And for context too, I told you my first carpet was a granite jag.
Right.
And to your point, as a little neonate, it seemed totally fine. And I think that the neuro is something that is criminally under discussed in our community. And when people bring it up, you get shot down pretty quick. I've been breeding for decades and I only breed the ones that don't have it. Like, no, come on. But when that thing reached a couple of years old, it was corkscrewing like crazy. It was falling off the perch from the top of the cage. Like, I'd hear this thump in the middle of the night, and I'm like, oh, what? Like, is it dead? Like,
right, what happened?
So just in terms of my perspective, I ended up parting ways with that animal, and I don't intend to get another jag ever again. I don't want that. Just makes me sad. Like, when I see this thing, like, she ate, she pooped, she will probably live a long, healthy life with a good keeper, but that is an animal that is impaired by choice, but the choice was ours, not the animal. So,
and I know we say that there's no problems. You don't know that 100%. I mean, we
didn't run a CAT scan on the snake.
Right. We judge the health of the snake by, is it breeding, is it eating, is it shedding? And they do all those things, and they do them fine. I just feel that, like, for myself, it's kind of like practice what you preach. It's kind of like, I think when you are, as you're saying, like somebody that's constantly in the Morelia community, I don't know. I don't know. I think I owe it to new keepers to be honest with it. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely. I was very happy to hear that you were doing that from somebody that had one of these animals as a newcomer. My first carpet was a wonky jag. Know? So it was good. I was pleased to hear somebody that I look up to, that I know a lot of people listen to, your voice carries, calling it what it is. And like you said, practicing what you preach,
Right.
So I respect it a lot personally.
Yeah. I just don't like the idea of somebody telling me that I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a long time why I held on to that was because of that. Sure. And the more and more that I think that if you're honest with yourself and you don't have a problem with it, more power to you, I mean, go for it. But I think if more people took the approach of like, look, you do what you want, but I'm going to not do this because of this. Right. This is my experience and this is what I'm not going to do. I think it's people will accept that more and be like, well, maybe Burke's got a point. Like, you know what I mean? Totally. Maybe he's right. And maybe I don't want to keep Jack.
And I'll go ahead and I'll be the one that pisses people off. And I'll say that in my opinion, I think it says a lot about how you view the animal and what value you put in them. Whether you decide, this is my view, whether you decide to create more obviously, clearly broken ones, like if these were Labradors and we were popping out, labs like that couldn't turn left or something, just like we're in a perpetual, that would be illegal so fast, and everyone would shame anyone that made the broken dog with its poor neurological disorder. But because it's a snake, it's a different story to some people, and I think that speaks volumes, in my view.
I'm hoping that the fact that I did that will maybe influence some newer keepers coming in, and over time maybe that will be less of a thing, like that's kind of
agreed. And it's funny how there's calls to literally like ban the spider ball python, but that doesn't really seem to exist for jags, despite the similarities in the morphs.
Well, I think they did in Europe, in UK.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, they were lumped in with those spiders. I know spider ball pythons were the ones that sort of took.
I apologize, Europe.
The limelight, but I think that they were quick to throw the jag in there as well. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm not here to tell people what they should do or shouldn't do. I just do what I do.
Yeah, totally.
I don't like it.
Do whatever you want, but all right, switching gears again. And how you doing? You good?
Yeah.
All right. Morelia Python Radio is approaching 10 years?
Yeah, we're going into we're already into our 9th year. So
wow. So the next one will be 10, 470 something episodes. Right. Yeah. So that's impressive. That's amazing. Congratulations. Now you're even expanding to new shows under the umbrella of Morelia Python Network. Yes. So I'm wondering, like, what has kept you going? And was there ever any time along this journey where you or Owen maybe considered calling it a day?
So I don't want to answer for Owen, but I know there was a time where you could see that I think he was having a hard time in life or whatever, to getting situated and whatnot. And, you're doing this, you understand, like, you can't just,
I'm not doing it weekly though,
but yeah, I the thing, I would be lying if I said that there weren't days where I'm like, oh man, do I really want to keep doing this, or like, where do we go? We've had conversations about that, I don't know. I enjoy talking to people about snakes, and I think that all the different podcasts that are out there now is like is awesome. To get the information out and have people be able to listen to it and understand from the people themselves. Like to me, Morelia Python Radio, we've said this before, but like a lot of people said, "What are you doing, man? That's like, what, you're just going to talk about Morelia? Like, what?" And I don't know. I think that I would hope that we had sort of an influence on making them more mainstream, and more people have a better understanding of them and appreciating them for what they are. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean?
Absolutely,
It's a lot of work.
I was blown away by how like well put together the outline you sent me was. I was like, oh my god, he does this every week. Like
every week.
There's a lot of hours outside of the recording that you're putting in for preparation and
booking
whatnot.
The guest, then figuring out what you're going to talk to the guest about.
Right. You have to do some digging, some stalking.
I would like to have more Australians on, right? I would like to
Uh-huh.
talk to them a little more, but the problem is like, I don't know, like, I don't want to have somebody that's no good or, you know what I mean? Like is bad down there. And they're like, "What are you doing, mate? What's wrong with you, mate? Why you have that guy on? He's a yanker or whatever."
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. The Australia version of like the worst keeper.
Yeah, I know. We did have one show. It's in the archives. I'll tell you who it is off the episode.
Okay.
But like that happened. It happened.
Oh,
and it kind of was like, oh man, I'm messaging Owen during the show. I was like, man, I really
this
shit
is all wrong.
I'm like, whoa, I did not do my homework on this one.
At the end of the episode, you had to do the little asterisk, like views do not represent that of the host.
Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, I don't know. I hope I don't see it stopping anytime soon. So I guess we'll see how it goes. Maybe
it's good news to me.
Years, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. 20 more years.
I know it's a long show, so like a lot of people will complain that it's too long. And when you compare it to other podcasts that are maybe like an hour and a half, it's a drive or whatever. I think that like I kind of follow the Joe Rogan idea is like you're having a conversation, you don't limit the conversation based on time. Like if you're having a conversation, the conversation's going good, then keep it going. Like I think what turned me on to that is Nick, he can talk, man. And that's like a 3-hour episode, but like that whole time you're getting so much information that,
absolutely.
And
it's immortalized for all time. Like I re-listen to episodes that are important to what I'm doing all the time. Like I have them downloaded onto my phone. Like I've listened to Blackheads with Jason Hood probably 4 times and the Breadlight Roundtable,
right.
So the long form is it's oh God, brain fart. Oh no. The enemy of the podcast. It's good. We'll just go with good. Long form, good. Luke is happy.
Yeah. I mean, if I think you have to be into it, right? You have to be into whatever the topic is, And if you're into carpet pythons and you're talking about carpet pythons for 3 hours or whatever it would be, Australia, whatever, then you're going to enjoy it. If you're not, then you're probably not going to enjoy it as much. I mean, I think now there's such a wide variety of podcasts and reptile podcasts that, like, I even find myself being pickier about what I listen to and what I don't listen to. Like, time is valuable, and if I'm going to listen to something, I want to listen to something that's going to teach me something,
Sure.
So hopefully we do that for people, I hope.
Absolutely.
I hope.
I think so.
Well, there we go.
Well, yeah. On that subject, let's talk a little bit about Student of the Serpent, your new endeavor. The Woma episode was phenomenal. I loved the editing style. I loved how you had multiple voices come in for different segments. We heard from you, Rob, Justin, and other people too. Scott, Scott. That was awesome. So what was the driving force behind starting that, and what are your goals and aspirations for it? And I think it's clear when you hear it how it differs from other projects, but if you want to speak on that too.
Yeah, it's so I've always wanted to do a podcast with Rob Stone, right? Rob is sort of like, I talk to Rob probably more than I talk to my family. Like me and Rob have conversations that are just, and again, Rob is into the same type of thing. Like, and the guy is an encyclopedia of knowledge about reptiles. Like, I mean, to me, he's probably the most influential guy in my entire herp career. Like, he really makes me think about things in a different way. And I was, we tried for years. We'd had different ideas of how to do it. For a while, we're like, well, it was kind of like, well, how am I going to tell Owen that I'm doing another podcast with you? I just felt like, my girlfriend's going to get jealous, that kind of thing. So I had this idea, and I, not that you see like all these different, there you go. You have all these different podcasts, and they sort of do the interview style, and it's cool. I'm not, obviously we do it,
right.
But I wanted to do something different. I wanted it to be different. And I'm always, I even in music, it's like you try to push things to another level, right?
Sure.
Anybody can sort of just like get a mic and sort of like do an interview, and like, then you have to book the guest and do the work. But like, it's
right.
It's not that difficult. What I found is, like, first, number one, I wanted to learn about things that I don't know about, right? Carpet pythons are in my wheelhouse. I can speak on them and not have to really think about, things, you know what I mean? Like I've studied them, read all the books, read all the papers, all that stuff. Whereas, like, I don't really know. Like, the next episode that we're working on is the timber rattlesnake.
Oh, awesome.
I don't really know about that. I mean, I do. I've seen them in the wild, but I don't know about it.
Not
like
at the level of how you know carpets.
Correct.
Right.
So in a way, it's more selfish, I guess, of myself that I'm trying to force myself to learn about something that I don't know about. Right. Which is kind of weird, because that was sort of our idea. And then Colubrid Corner kind of came around, and I thought Owen and Riley were going to do interview style about colubrids, but they sort of did the same thing of what we're doing. But there is not, the thing that they're doing is more of like them talking about, the research they did on said species. I wanted to, and go ahead.
Yeah, so far there's like less information too about the things they're choosing to cover. So I love it, because they're just like, well, maybe it does that. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And Student of the Serpent, I wanted it to be different. It took me a month to edit that, because I had it and I scrapped it. Because I kept hearing it. I'm like, how are people going to react to this? Are they going to like it? Are they going to hate it? Are they going to say? And then I was like, well, I don't really care, and then I would send it off to Rob. He would take a listen, and he's like, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. And I was like, nah, I don't like it. It's got to go, it's got to change it up. Right. So eventually I said, enough of this, but I got to put it out there. But like, I learned things about womas that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that they were arboreal.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I want to redo my Woma video now with the knowledge that they're in trees. Like, God damn it.
And like, the other thing is, like, I listened to, and this is sort of going to be the goal for NPR, and just everything in general that we're doing as far as podcasts. Like, the most important thing that I'm going to put at the top of my outlines is, what do I hope to learn from this episode? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's sort of like what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate people about things that they may not know. So, like, what is going to be the goal to teach people about these things? And
that's awesome.
Hopefully it I'm sure we'll hit some bumps in the road, but
No, that's great. I mean, that's certainly why I'm doing this. It's all selfish. I want to learn.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully
Oh man,
people
I
can
can't.
learn with me, but
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
I can't tell you how lucky I feel to interview the people that we've interviewed over the past 9 years.
Yeah,
Um, and it has taught me so much. Like,
right.
and I wouldn't have been able to meet the people that I've met, and I wouldn't have. It's just it's humbling, you know. It's like, wow, all this because I wanted to talk about carpet pythons on a
Yeah,
podcast, like you know. But
absolutely. And Carpet Fest on top of that, what you guys have created in that regard, it's pretty amazing.
yeah, that's another
I
crazy
still need to go
adventure.
to one, but
Yeah, yeah,
fucking
man.
COVID
Yeah,
someday.
screwed it all up.
Yeah, I know. Wow. Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for that next episode. When not to get too much into it, I don't want to make you spoil anything, but when you were looking at timbers, did you have to do anything in regards to the snake fungal disease? Did you look at that at all?
We did. That is on the because that's a big thing that affects
Right.
them for sure. You know,
Earlier this year it was found in California for the first time in a king snake. So I ended up looking pretty deeply into it, and it seemed like timbers were the one that were affected the worst in the States.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to
something I
pick
would
your
love
brain
to
on
learn
that.
more about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a, you know, and the other thing is we're trying to we're trying to focus on species that we've seen in the wild or been to their habitat.
Okay.
Okay. And that doesn't mean that that's all we're ever going to talk about, the stuff we've seen, but I think like at the beginning, that's stuff that we want to focus in on because, you know, when we're talking about that, we have firsthand knowledge. I'm not listening to somebody else tell, you know, like over this past summer, we went up to a timber rattlesnake den in New York. We
Wow.
also went to a den in Pennsylvania. We actually found one. The year before, I think we found 4 at that same den. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So
That's awesome.
I got firsthand knowledge of like what their environment's like and you know what's going on, and you know. So
Yeah. Speaking of hands-on, are you planning on doing an episode on water pythons by chance?
I'm sure that will eventually make it into the mix since we found actually 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You sent me those pictures. That was so cool.
Yeah.
Well, that would be my request for an episode. And speaking of
Water
water
pythons?
pythons,
All right.
I wanted to talk to you about them. And I know we're kind of jumping all over the place here, but that's just,
Nah, man, it's
I
good.
had so many things I wanted to ask you. But with the water pythons, I feel like there's not a ton, and there's that.
There you go. Yeah.
Is that okay to put up?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it seems to me that there's not a ton of information on Fuscus available outside of like Nick's website.
Right.
They're definitely underrepresented in terms of information compared to other liasis. So I know you found them in the wild and you keep them. I'd love to talk with you about them for a little bit. Like, what
Yeah.
are they all about? Like, what are they like?
So, well, my first experience with water pythons was Owen's water pythons, right? Yeah, man, that was a nice snake. Was Owen's, and he has what I believe are the New Guinea ones. And
Okay,
man,
cool.
they're just straight up. They're the aggressive ones, and I think they're the ones where they get the
Ah.
bad nature because
The
the
New
ones
Guinea
that we
ones are
found,
nastier than the Queensland ones in general.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. From what I've heard, you know, and from what I've seen, that is also the case. You know, I'm sure that there's individuals that are
Right.
probably
Yeah.
not evil.
Those generalizations are always
yeah.
just that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the Queensland ones, super chill. At least mine, you know.
In captivity as well.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
awesome. And
No
yours are
doubt.
from Nick's?
I have one from Ryan and one from
Okay.
Nick. Yeah. So
Very cool.
super. You know, again, it's like one of those things. I don't know why people don't appreciate them. I mean,
Yeah.
their iridescence on that. I mean, we talk about white-lipped pythons, and it's like, okay, yeah, iridescence is amazing. So what about this snake that has
Yeah.
iridescence in an orange belly? Like, I don't get like why. I don't know.
They're on my list, that's for sure. They
Yeah,
seem absolutely beautiful.
yeah, man, they're really cool. Super. I keep them just like my carpets. There's nothing difficult about keeping them or anything like
Do
that.
you provide a bigger water area for them to
No.
soak,
I
or?
mean, maybe at some point. So, okay, so we found two of them. The one is in what you would, I think I sent you the video of where we
Yeah.
found it. It was like in the log, and like, I mean, if you
You're
want
like,
to put
"Get
it in
out."
there, you can, whatever you want to do. If you want to tag it in there so people can see what we're talking
Okay,
about, that's
cool.
fine.
Yeah, I
don't
could
care.
probably overlay it. If you're watching this, you're seeing what we're talking about. If you're
Yeah.
not, go on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. But typically what like, at least what I envisioned what the environment would look like, damp, rainforest type of habitat, swampy type of habitat like that. What was crazy though is like Fog Dam was so that's where we found that one that you saw me holding. What was crazy about that is that the environment didn't look like when Nick told me about his experience with Fog Dam and how he's running down to the end of the thing and everybody's screaming at him because they're like, "What are you doing? There's crocodiles in there." And sure enough, man, there's crocodiles in that thing. And you put the eye shine, you see all the eye shine out there, and they're like right there. You're on this like little road. It's like a road, and that's it.
Wow.
So we're walking up this road, and sure enough, man, there was just Owen was sick as a dog, and he just sees it and grabs it, and Rob's hands
In a
on.
fever dream. Like,
yeah, man, it was
look,
great.
snake.
Right after that, we found a slaty gray, and but what was different is the other one we found in the botanical gardens, completely different environment. No water around, it wasn't damp. It was like a park, basically. And
Interesting.
I'll send you that video too of the one climbing up the tree.
Yeah,
but that
please
thing
do.
was huge. It was humongous. Like, when you think of water pythons and like we're talking about like, you shouldn't keep these snakes big or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, the thing was,
right.
I had it up like this, and it was,
Yeah,
like
that thing was
almost the
massive.
size of me. It was in
Yeah.
half. So it was a big snake, but again, super chill.
How big are the ones that you keep at home?
The ones I have are probably, I mean, they're still growing up. I want to say it's probably about maybe 3-4 foot is
Okay.
is a range. I think in captivity they're probably a little smaller, but I'd really like to do like a decked out natural environment for those guys, and like, try to replicate Fog Dam in my garage.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
So they're not necessarily like they're not super aquatic per se. Like, water's in the name, but you don't have to give them a swimming pool.
I don't think so. It's not like an anaconda or something where, they're so heavy bodied and like the being in the water would help them. I think that's
Okay.
just the environment that they choose to utilize.
Gotcha. There's that one.
Yeah, there it is. I mean, that thing was huge.
That is that's a unit.
Yeah, we thought it was an olive python. So when we went to Northern Territory, we were trying to find all 5 species of pythons. And when we found that, so we didn't find an olive python, which is, everybody's telling us to go on Dorat Road, and like they're all over the place. And like, I don't know, man. All I see is kangaroos. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see them anywhere. But when we were in that, what's funny about that place is that we were walking around botanical gardens, and there was this guy and this girl, and they were doing a photo shoot. And it was like right by the tree, like over in the corner there. And we were sort of like, "Come on, man, stop doing a photo shoot. We're hunting snakes. Like, we want to try to find." And we're trying to be discreet about it at the same time, like, not draw attention and not get in their way and let them do what they're doing so they could get out of there. But like, when we saw that thing, like it was, and
They were
we
in
could
the way
see-
of this thing.
Yeah, it was like over in that area. So they were over here taking pictures and
Just paying it
I
no
forget
mind.
who-
The giant,
Yeah,
the giant
right.
python.
I don't know. I think it was Rob that saw it first. I think if I forget, but I'm pretty sure it was Rob. And like when he saw it, I think he thought it was an olive python. When I looked at it, I thought it was an olive python. And then we're like, no, it's not. It's a water python. I'm like, holy shit. Wait till I tell Nick he was wrong. He said they're small.
Yeah.
This is not small.
What did he say?
What did he say?
Yeah, when he saw that.
Picture,
Yeah,
he's like, holy shit. Yeah, you know. But,
that's awesome. Are they pretty good feeders? Pretty
yeah, I have no problem with
pretty
them
solid.
eating. Yeah. I've never produced them to where I've had to get them going, but I don't.
Right.
From what I hear, they're not too difficult. I think they're a lot like. So this is the perfect type of snake. If you keep carpet pythons and you want something that's different that nobody else has, this is a perfect species to work with. You can plug it right in, man. You keep them like carpets; they're good as gold. You know.
Do you want to produce them in the future?
Yes, absolutely.
Sweet. Yeah. Let me know.
Yeah. You know, I find it interesting. There was a paper that Richard Shine did on them, and like they maternally incubate up until a point, and they'll actually leave their eggs. And the thought is that they leave the eggs because the environment is a lot more stable temperature-wise than, say, if you're over in Queensland or down in the South or whatever.
Interesting.
So those Northern Territory ones, will leave the clutch and then they hatch on their own, which when you're talking pythons, you don't really hear that too often.
Totally.
That they're like, 3/4 of the way through and they're like, all right, you're on your own later.
And I guess there's not a ton of little scavenger egg eating creatures just wiping out the clutches.
Yeah, I suppose you would think. I don't know, man, with all the monitors and stuff, but I don't know. I guess
very cool. Well, I guess in captivity, then you might not want to let them do MI if they they decide I've had enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
very cool
snakes, though, man.
Yeah, that's something I would love to get into.
Why them instead of the like olives, or do you like both? What
I
is
like
it about
olives.
them?
The waters, like you're saying, that iridescence it seems to be extremely vibrant iridescence, and the orange bellies is really pretty. And they do tend to stay smaller than olives, right? Yeah. So that would probably fit what I have going a little better.
Gotcha.
I gotta get some big cages here for my adult bredli and female blackhead and whatnot, and something that could stay in a little bit of a smaller cage long term would be better for me at the moment.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's cool, but yeah, man, that's a good fit. I'm surprised they're not more popular. With this wave of like liasis and like all these rare species of pythons that people want to work with, you would think.
Totally. That, same. And just the fact that you can barely even find anything like content wise about them out there. So cool. Awesome.
Cool.
Very, very cool. All right. I kind of want to touch on the social media thing.
Okay.
A little bit, if you're down for that. And then we'll get into show and tell.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Cool. So at least, it seems to me like you're a pretty thoughtful guy. Like at listening to you, I've probably listened to you speak for hours, even though, we've only talked to each other a few times now,
Right.
In a weird roundabout way, I feel like I've heard a lot from you, and it seems like you're very thoughtful and introspective. And, I heard you talk about your decision to get off of Facebook largely and just go straight from your website. So maybe speak a little bit about your decision in that regard and what you would like to see in the future in terms of the relationship between the hobby and social media like Facebook.
I think social media has a lot of pros. The fact that I can message, nipper in the UK, or I guess I could do that now today without Facebook and stuff. But like, I think Facebook or just social media in general sort of push that to the next level. Right. And like to be able to talk to somebody in Australia, about, I guess coming from the time of reptiles when you had to take a picture, send a self-addressed stamped envelope, you know what I mean? Like snail mail, it would come. If you're going to talk to somebody on the phone, it wasn't like, long distance apply. You know what I mean?
That was probably a lot better for impulse purchase. So you got to wait weeks.
100%. I think the thing for me with social media is that I see not even so much even just reptiles, but I find myself just sucked into it. It's kind of like I'm trying to get rid of the bad habits in my life. The older I get, I want to try to not give stress. You know what I mean? I don't want to be stressed out, and I don't want to. I'm trying to, eat healthier and exercise and get enough sleep and all those things that like the older you get, the more it's like, oh, well, I guess this kind of matters now, like
Sure.
It didn't matter when I was 20, but now that I'm 40, it does matter. But the negativity, just turns me off. We're arguing about things that, why are we arguing about it? Like,
right.
And I see both sides of it. The disrespect that newer keepers give keepers that have been keeping forever. And how dare you, say that to somebody, that the only reason that you were able to keep that reptile is because they did the work. How dare you? You have balls, big balls to do that.
Or you don't, and you just have no idea who you're talking to because you haven't done any research.
Right. That could be as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then you'll have, I've seen it many times where I've seen it with Nick. I've seen it with Justin. I've seen it with Keith. I've seen it with, just guys that have been around forever and have a tremendous amount of experience. And they're not just winging this off the, their thoughts off the top of their head. They've done this through experience. But on the flip side of that, I also can't stand when there's new keepers that come in, and because they don't have a Bones python or the flashiest morph or whatever the case would be, and they put a thought out into the ether to sort of say, hey guys, here's a thought. Did you ever think of this? And everybody's like, how dare you? And it's just like, yo, man, chill out. I don't understand the hostility. I don't want that negativity in my life, right? I can't control Facebook. I can't, and it's almost like I have tried to do this for a long time, because I feel with the show, you sort of have to stay sort of in touch with what's going on, but I can't do it. Like my webpage, I control 100%. I control the content. I control how it's laid out. I control what I want to put, when I want to post it, all that stuff. Right. And I found that originally MoreliaPythonRadio.com was supposed to be, I say it a lot, and I've been redoing it, and it's a labor of love. It takes a long time. But it's supposed to be the hub of Morelia. And I don't know if I'm just sucky at web designing, or people don't know, or whatever the case would be. But there's spots in there where you can go and you want to learn about the jag. Okay, here's the jag. You click on this. It'll show you all the different combinations of morphs that have jag in it. I even went to put the crosses of stuff,
oh, wow.
Carpondros and Brettle jags and all these different things that they've been crossed with. So people know that hey, this has been done, and to do that with each, first each subspecies and species, and talk about their natural environment and stuff like that. And then to do it with the morphs, so people have sort of a place where they can go. And I guess sort of like my own version of World of Ball Pythons, right? It's sort of supposed to be that type of thing. I also wanted to be a spot where people, if they want to read about, or what books that I use to learn about them or whatever, that they can go there and see that, or papers or whatever the case, any kind of content, is there. That's sort of the idea. And I find myself like, I'm like, we really should work more on a blog and sort of like put our thoughts out there. But I get so caught up in the social media part of it that,
Right.
Hours go by and I'm scrolling mindlessly. And it's like, what did I learn? I didn't learn anything,
You
I just
learned
look at
that
pretty
Joe
pictures.
hates Mike and called him a dirty liar.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that it's currently in the state that it is, it's just a bad format for communication. And that's sort of like what led to Carpet Fest. And I'm sort of going back to the idea of the forums. Like the forums were a little bit different.
Right.
And I guess that they were maybe policed differently. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but like you went to those places knowing that the people that are talking are experienced and you're going to learn.
Right. You had your badges or like your number of members since 1990 or whatever, and like, and there were probably actually admins, right? That would say like, look at the pinned posts, like stop doing duplicate posts.
Right. Exactly.
I feel
it just
like,
seemed to be, more managed better, I guess if you would,
Yeah. That's not really a thing on Facebook. And in Facebook groups that I've been in where people do try to police it, like people just get pissed at the admins and like, you motherfucker, why'd you take down my post? Like it gets so ugly so fast.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, it's got its good points and it's got its bad points, but like, I just find myself, the first step was that I deleted it off my phone. So I deleted Facebook off my phone. And it was like, okay, so now I'm not tempted to look at it, whatever. And if I absolutely had to, like I said earlier, the lucky thing for me is that, having Messenger, people will just message me the things that they think are like, check this out, check this out, check this out, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. So I don't really have to go and scroll around. The one thing I do, and this is sort of what I do on a daily basis, is I try to keep an archive. I know this sounds crazy, an archive of what's going on in the carpet python world. And like, I have books, which I'm sure you've heard talked about on the the binders and stuff.
Binders,
Like old websites printed out and all.
That's awesome though. That is priceless. That's invaluable.
I have threads from Morelia Python forum printed out about the red gene and like all these different controversies and stuff. And now, like, look, now it's gone. So I'm glad I did print it out. Guys like Andrew Hare, his website printed out. And so I'm thinking about like, I often think about the past, but I often forget about the present. And I'm like, well, maybe 10 years from now, somebody's going to be looking for this picture and like, they're not going to know what it is or where to find it. Maybe I'll have it and I'll have it available. I can't tell you how many people contact me all the time asking. And here's the thing. When Nick Mutton contacts you, asking you for a picture of a lineage, you're like, okay,
that's awesome.
I feel pretty good.
You're like the historian, like the guardian of the great library.
Exactly. So I sort of do that once a day. I'll go through. I document like just I'll copy the thread or whatever, and like breedings. And I have them separated from like Australian breedings and outside of Australia. So like,
wow,
if somebody breeds something that I think may be potentially cool, or like down the line maybe something that's cool, that I'll go and I'll put that in the file. And
that is so cool. And it's all hard copy stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude,
So
that is awesome. That might be like in the future, like a years long project, like trying to scan all that stuff and
like a lot of it today I do keep in like I keep it in my Apple Notes app, right? And then I'll put some of it on file, some of it on zip drives, and then I'll print it out just in case something happens to those things, and then it's lost. So
awesome. That's so cool. I feel like I could get lost just flipping through that. That would be
it's
awesome.
Like it's history, man, and like I said, it's like in the present, I talk about this to Owen sometimes, and I say like, I wonder if years from now, like, 10 years and people are still keeping carpets, or 20 years, and like we're out of this or retired or dead or whatever. You know what I mean? And like people are like, oh man, Eric Burke and Rob Stone and Owen went and Keith went to Australia and they found this Owen Pelly, and like I want that to be documented, so it's not like people are like, well, this is what really happened. Oh, I don't know what really happened, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
and for something as special as that too, it's not just for herp people. I mean, someday, like if everything goes to shit, like it would, if that species goes, if womas go, if Owen Pellies go, et cetera, that's so valuable to have a document. And in the modern age, video of these things,
yeah 100%,
to take it to a depressing place. I'm prone to do that, sorry.
No worries.
Environmental studies.
Yeah, but yeah, that's sort of like why I sort of pulled away from social media. And
for sure,
I still do go. And you know what makes it even easier? I hate the new setup for Facebook. I hate it.
They changed everything.
I hate it. Yeah. And I'm glad I hate it. And I'm glad they changed it, because it makes it great, because I don't want to go there.
Every time you look at it, you're like, motherfucker, why did you do this? That's like, for me, I'm still pissed off that they changed Instagram. It used to be just the newest things first. Now they algorithm, set it to an algorithm, so it's what it thinks you'll like the most first. And I want to see everything in order, because I'm missing things, and then I'll like
100%, yeah.
Or at least give me the option.
Right. And like, are there things that are going on that we don't know about because you don't see it? Like,
that maybe I care way more about than
yeah. It's like, your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed is your world, right? And then you look at somebody that's like into the same type of things, and it's like, wow, your feed's completely different than mine. Like, why is that? So so what am I missing?
I know, I hate that. Absolutely hate it. All right. Awesome. Great stuff. I would love to do this little show and tell segment that we talked about. So
sure.
For those listening on podcast audio only platforms, this is going to be a bit of a challenge for you. I recommend going to YouTube and checking out the show and tell there. I might actually just cut this out entirely from the audio version. But hey, if you're joining us on YouTube, Eric is going to show us some animals of his choosing that he wanted to bring today, and tell us a little bit about them, just like show and tell in elementary school. So what do you got?
I got a couple of the things that I wanted to show were in shed, obviously.
Okay.
So that makes
classic.
I have a couple cool things. So let me go and grab them all.
Fantastic.
So as much as I love carpet pythons, I thought I would start with this snake because I think you'll appreciate this
one. Oh man, that is absolutely gorgeous.
So Keith McPeak produced this, and
wow,
yeah,
look at those yellows.
Yeah,
is that a male or female?
This is a female.
She is beautiful.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I get it in the screen so you can see it.
So for those watching, female Woma python, Aspidites ramsayi.
Yeah, such an underrated species, man. So underrated. I know everybody loves the blackheads and all, but
I agreed. And in my experience, having both of those species, totally different personality wise. One is not at all equal to the other. Yeah. But that is a beautiful, beautiful Woma. So that's from Keith. How old?
She's what? Maybe, I think she might be a little over a year, maybe a year and a half, something like that. But yeah, beautiful. I love this snake.
She is stunning. What are your plans for her?
So I got a mail from Brett Bender.
Okay, yeah, Brett's a great guy.
Yeah, to go with her. So hopefully, I produce some amazing stuff. Yeah, Keith gave me this animal.
That's so
literally
cool.
Gave it to me. You know what I mean? And like, I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
He's like, well, when you produce something with her, just send it back my way. So
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, look at that, man. Look at that.
It's
banding.
that is stunning. I mean,
it almost looks like a blackhead, right?
It does. The banding is a little bit more blackhead-esque with kind of the orange flaming a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see that orange head. So
that is an amazing animal.
Yeah, she's actually pretty chill.
Yeah.
Right.
And okay. All right. Awesome.
So this one, I haven't really shared too much of these, but I figure since it's video.
Yeah.
So I talk about melanistic.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. It's kind of the light's kind of not working with it, but let's see.
There you go. That looks good. That looks good.
So this is a poison ivy. One of the males that she produced a year ago or so. No, a couple years ago from that lineage. But super melanistic. You can see it's not really, I don't know why it's probably the lighting, but anyway, super dark. Probably if you've seen anything about me, you've seen poison ivy, the melanistic IJ.
Right.
This one is not the darkest one, but definitely. See, the carpets just want to get.
Carpets don't stop. Now, are you noticing that they're darkening up as they age as well? I think I've heard you talk about that.
Yes. So I have to get a different one because this one is not the one that you can see it. But right here you can see right as it sheds, this darkness goes further down.
Interesting.
So it's kind of cool.
That is very cool.
What's happening is what I'm seeing is this snake is black, but because I'm putting it in the light, you're seeing the pattern come up. So
totally, yeah. Lighting.
I don't know if that worked as well as I thought. It was gonna work,
Lighting is a fickle thing. Every time that you zoom back up just a little bit farther from the light, it looks very, very jet black. Yeah. Awesome.
And for some reason, the same thing, like the belly, and she had the same thing where the belly was dark like this. I think I have pictures of it somewhere, but
and poison ivy unfortunately passed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but you do have some clutches.
All of them. All of them. Yes, I did not let any of them go.
That's good. What a cool project.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this season this would be something that I'm finally gonna see something. The other thing about these guys is their head stamp, which, man, so much different than the Loma. The head stamp. I don't know if you can see it. It just keeps getting darker and darker to where it fills in.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like what she had. What I liked about her, poison ivy in particular, is she still had white on the face. So you could still see
around the pits.
Yeah, right around here. It's very reminiscent of a bowline eye. So I would say it's the cheap man's version of a bowline eye.
Absolutely. I feel like a few generations of pairing the darkest ones, you'd be getting into that territory.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
That.
All right. Next up.
So these are another one that are near and dear to my heart and don't understand why they're not more popular. Inland carpet pythons. I mean,
wow.
They're
Morelia spilota metcalfe, right?
Yeah. Like they have this brown and red that comes through, and they're so chill. They're easily I know breadlie are chill.
Right.
These things are way chill. They're just chill snakes.
And is that a Nick Mutton animal?
This is, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Nick produced this one. And hopefully
gorgeous.
We get to breed in her this year, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But
I think I told you last time we spoke that I have a deposit down on 1.1 of this year's inland clutch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You won't be disappointed, man.
That's so cool.
These are the Mulg line.
Okay.
And I guess the Mulg line seems to be people reproduce them more. The Schofield sort of has some problem, not problems, but they're a little more difficult to reproduce. I'm not really sure why.
Okay.
I have both, but I'm going to give the shot first with the mold line stuff. So
They have such a cool dorsal pattern, the way that it's kind of separated by the striping on the side.
Yeah, you can't. You can't. I don't know. You can't really see it. So the male I have, which of course he's in shed, is the one that I posted up the picture where all the red. Now this one is similar, but it doesn't have the red's not as extreme, you know. But yeah, man, I love
Climbing the tree.
Yeah, exactly. Be a tree, and
yeah,
right,
that is awesome.
So inland carpet.
Thank you,
man. I'm losing everything. Next are all going to be babies, so they'd be easier
to for sure.
But this is what I call Molly 2.0, right?
Okay.
So this is a red that I hatched. That I don't know.
Now, when you say red, are you talking about the Russian red stuff?
So this is MBB red.
Okay.
MBB red.
Got it.
Tiger, but like
Madam Blueberry.
Yes.
Wow, that is a beautiful little carpet.
Yeah, to have that much red at this point.
Totally. Wow.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Great stripe too.
Yeah, she has, and even down by the tail is like perfectly striped.
That's so cool. So is that kind of your main holdback in that project?
Yeah, so this was the only tiger that I produced. All the rest were jags, so I sold them all and got rid of them all. Yeah, this one was the only tiger, and so Molly Ringwald. You know, for people that don't know the story, I had this beautiful Biak that I got at Carpet Fest. It was my first chondro. I was completely yellow. I think it had like 3 green scales. Green tree python people would kill for this snake. And a good friend of mine, Zach Baez, had Molly Ringwald is what he called her. And she was a red tiger produced by Jason Balin. Beautiful, right? And I wanted the carpet. He wanted the chondro. We traded. And you know, for a long time, I talked about this pairing of V, which was a jag, that red jag that Owen now has, and Molly Ringwald, and like what an amazing pairing it would be. But now,
wow, well, that's a great head stamp. It's kind of an arrow coming out from the neck.
Yeah,
kind of. If you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, that show.
Yeah, and that seems to be a trait of tigers, actually, is that.
Interesting.
If you hear Jason Balin talk about that, that's sort of like one of the characteristics that he talks about.
So cool.
So
that is awesome.
Yeah. Cool snake.
Very cool.
So
thank you so much.
Yeah, man. So routinely I talk about IJs not getting love, but another one that I don't feel gets a lot of love is coastal carpets, right? Sure. So we're in Texas. When we were in West Texas this past time, I think I told the story on the show. Basically I was just flipping through classifieds, and I came across this snake, and it is a coastal carpet.
Wow.
It was produced by Mark Goyer. Okay. And like, just amazing. I had to have it. Like, to me,
I saw on Facebook when Mark was posting all these available pictures.
Yeah.
And so when I heard that you guys were in Texas doing the same thing, and then you found that one, that was fun. Yeah. He threw up some amazing looking animals that day.
Yeah, man. It's really,
I'm glad that one made its way to you. That is a really special looking coastal.
Yeah. So the stripe is beautiful. The color is beautiful. So I don't know. Hopefully
that's awesome.
I can refine it some more.
And what are the what's the background on that animal?
So it's a Lemke, and I think he bred it with a caramel.
Gotcha.
And produced that one. But,
badass.
Yeah, really cool.
That is awesome.
Really, really cool. But, yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. The very first show and tell segment. Thank you for entertaining my idea.
Yeah, no worries, man. No. All right.
How far do you have to go to the snake room?
It's just across the thing. Yeah.
Nice.
This is the cold snake room, and that's the warm snake
Gotcha.
room.
Big incubator behind you too?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. That looks awesome.
Homemade.
Cool. All right. So again, if you're listening on the audio only sources, we just did an awesome show and tell segment that you can see on YouTube. Eric showed us some amazing carpets and womas. All right. So now we're gonna move on to rapid fire. So I have just a series of questions that I'm going to ask in a rapid fire way.
Okay.
So, I guess first up. So what is a common reptile / snake myth or misconception that you particularly hate? One that really gets under your skin that you would like to be corrected?
Wow, that's not really rapid, huh? A common snake myth. Are you talking with keepers, or does it matter, or like general people, or what do you
Either
mean?
way. Either way.
Either way. The one that really irritates the shit out of me is that whole that one where the snake wraps around the girl that's sleeping in bed and it's
sizing her up. Yeah.
My non-snake people will always show me that, and I'm like, oh my god,
The first thing my sister said when I got a python. Yeah. She's like, don't let it sleep with you. I'm like, why would I let it sleep with me?
Yeah, you're like, why?
It would be gone by morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Totally not true. Anybody listening, that doesn't happen. And then, of course, the if you could only keep one species for the rest of your life, and any iteration of that species, so you could keep its localities, you could keep its morphs, but it has to be one species. What would it be?
One species. Obviously, it would be a carpet python.
Okay.
And oddly enough, I think I would probably keep diamond pythons.
Nice. Awesome.
One.
Very cool. All right. What was the worst snake bite that you've ever received?
Worst snake bite. Burmese python.
Young Eric?
Yeah. Mistaken for a food response, which always ends worse. That was that got dodgy for a minute.
Gotcha.
Did the wrap, the whole thing in the basement by myself, that kind of deal. Yeah. I think the snake was probably maybe 10 foot. Yeah, 10-foot berm. Yeah.
Gotcha. Just a reminder when you're working with snakes that big to try to have a spotter, I guess. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Or at least have somebody close by that you can yell up to that, when you're in trouble,
Totally.
Hey.
So what is something that current Eric wishes he could tell beginner hobbyist Eric?
Diamond pythons are easy to keep and breed. Well, I don't know about the breeding part, but from what I hear, they're pretty easy to breed. But
they're not just going to die automatically when the sun shines on them.
Yeah, me and Owen talk about it a lot. That that because they fit into like your home pretty easy. Like you can keep them in a room and it can get room temperature, and they actually prefer it. Rather than like if it gets down to like in the 60s in the winter and that kind of thing. And they won't blink an eye, it's
for sure. Yeah.
But I think like in my early days, I was afraid of them. Like somehow they were like these magical snakes. They weren't on sticks, but they were magical snakes, and
right.
like you couldn't keep them.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's a good one. All right. Favorite non-reptile animal?
Favorite non-reptile animal. Probably a giraffe.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah. I love the pattern, which is probably why I like Burmese pythons and things like that, because it's very similar type of look. But yeah, I would probably say giraffes. I don't know what it is.
Have you ever done the thing where they let you feed it and the big ass tongue comes out?
Yeah. Yeah. I did that at the Bronx Zoo. Chris Salemi got me back to do that. Very cool. It was pretty awesome.
My uncle that worked with Riley at the Sacramento Zoo took my sister and I to do that at one point. That was so cool.
I like that Joe Rogan joke where he's like, giraffes are the one animal that people don't care about kids, and like the giraffes are just walking around the zoo and they're like, another day without lions, like they don't give a shit that they're in captivity. They don't care about nothing,
Life is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite find in Australia that was not the Owen Pelly python?
Ah, that's a carpet python.
Okay.
The
Any
Darwin
particular
carpet
one? The Darwin.
Well, actually, no. I'm about to back that up. Probably my favorite one was the first one, was a gelatin jungle, just because it was the first one. It just
and you
was
keep
like
those as
I
well.
can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the fact that I could. There's a carpet python on the road. Like, wait a minute. Wait, what? It's on the road. Wait. Oh my God. I can't believe it. Oh my God. It's a carpet python. Like, yeah.
Yeah. This is there and it didn't escape from somebody's house.
Right. Yeah.
Very cool. What was your least favorite stop in Australia? Where's somewhere that you wouldn't want to go back?
Least favorite spot.
If there was one.
I don't think I had one.
Nice.
Getting on the plane to come back. You know what I mean? That
the
was
airport.
My least favorite spot. Yeah.
Very good. That's awesome. Funny.
Or maybe it was driving on the other side of the road. Being on the opposite side of the car was a little bit of a struggle. But.
Yeah, that sounds just so freaky and unnatural.
Yeah. That was weird.
The ghost of poison ivy.
Oh, it's my wife. She's okay. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a ghost there? What's going on? Sorry.
All good?
Yeah.
Okay. Funniest or craziest customer interaction or story. It could be like a weird trade offer or something of that nature.
Weird trade. I think somebody wanted to trade me one time was like chainsaws and stuff like that. It was just kind of weird. Yeah, well, it's not really selling too many snakes. I don't necessarily have too many crazy stories, but I don't want to steal Owen's story, but ask Owen that question.
Okay.
And he has a really good one.
Got it.
That's pretty good. But
all right.
yeah, probably chainsaws.
That is a weird one. Yeah. Was there ever something that you said on an episode of NPR that you wish you could take back?
Oh, 100%. Yes, 100%. Even not so much what I said, how I said it. Like there was a time when the morph stuff was getting crazy, and I was just mad and upset that like the Morelia community sort of like became this thing where I'm friends with this guy and I can't be friends with this guy. And I'm like, what are we, children? Like, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean? Like, why do you care if I like this guy? Like, I like you. What difference does it make? Like, I don't know. I just don't like that whole mindset. Yeah. And I kind of got like, I don't know. I got caught up in it. And like, there was a section of NPR. It was like, I don't know. It's like in the middle time frame where I seemed to be more negative than I have in the past. And I've tried to change that as best as I could, so that I believe that the way to promote a species that you want to promote, the best thing to do is to be positive about that species and not be negative about another one. Like, meaning that like my species is good, but your species sucks, like,
right.
That whole ball python thing.
Then you're just alienating that group of people.
Just tell why your snake is cool and maybe people will like it. Maybe they won't.
Right. But it doesn't have to be one over the other.
Yeah, exactly.
They can both be cool.
Like,
sure. For sure.
I didn't like that part of my Morelia Python career, Morelia Python radio career. But,
gotcha. I can't wait to ask Owen that question.
Well, clearly there's a lot of things I've said wrong on the show.
Yeah. Okay. what are your top 5 favorite albums of all time?
Ooh, top favorite 5 albums. Okay. Well, obviously the first one would be Van Halen 1.
Okay.
And I'm simply going by what influenced me guitar player wise, and
Got it.
what I listened to. This is a weird one. U2 Joshua Tree. I thought that was an amazing album. I really like that a lot. Let's see what else. Stevie Ray Vaughan. Probably, if I were to pick one, I would probably have to say Texas Flood. Like I was blown away by that. So how many is that? 3?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going all old school
It's
classic rock.
it's a hard question. I don't know if I'd be
Yeah.
able to answer it.
Huh. I'm trying to think, like, what do I listen? Joe Satriani would probably be the next one that I listen to a lot. You know, like I love Joe Satriani.
My guitar teacher in college was a student of Satriani, which was crazy to hear the stories about Joe through him.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I can only imagine. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I met him once. He was an awesome guy. He was as short as me, so that was cool. It wasn't like, I met Steve Vai. He was tall, so I was like, oh, shit. But, yeah, Joe Satriani probably the guy I listen to the most. And the next one, I guess would be the last one is like, well, I have 2 more, right? So I really like, which is, I really like John Mayer. I like the fact that he is like the last guitar hero in the true sense of the word, that like there's guitar heroes that guitar people know, and then there's guitar peoples that everybody knows, right?
Sure.
And John Mayer fits that box where he has, his songs may be poppy or whatever, blah, 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 but man, can he play the shit out of the guitar, man.
100%. 100%.
He's a beast, and like his sense of rhythm and timing and all that stuff. Oh man, it's just great.
Yeah.
And then
he's so good.
Yeah, one of my favorites for sure. And the fact that I can listen to his songs and it's not like, it's just the groove, it's just the beat, the feel, the feeling of the song. He's playing a couple notes and man, do they sound better than most. How many is that? 3, 4?
I think you got 5 there.
Okay. All right. We'll let it ride with that.
Right on. I love it. So. And staying on that subject, if you could own any guitar free of charge, what's your dream axe?
I'm a huge Fender Strat fan.
Nice.
I did play, I think it was a 69 Strat one time in the studio, and man, that was just magic. I mean, it was just magic. That the amp is cranked to 10. You got
just letting it break up all natural like.
Oh yeah, sweet. Probably a Strat like that would probably
a vintage Strat. There you go.
Yeah, vintage.
Right
Strat,
on. Yeah. I got to work at a guitar shop in Santa Cruz when I was doing undergrad that specialized in vintage stuff, and some of the older Fenders, and there was like a 1964 Jazzmaster that came in. Unreal. Like the vintage thing, it really does make a difference. It really does.
Yeah. It's like worn in. It's I don't know, something.
Yeah, it's hard
something
to explain.
about. Yeah, but
very cool. Would you say you're largely a single coil guy then?
In my earlier days, I was more of a humbucker guy. More of
we've lost 80% of the audience, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, is humbucker a carpet python?
Wait a minute, I've never heard of that morph. What's going on? I think in my earlier days, I was more into metal, more into this would be like like shred type of approach to guitar. And then I've always been influenced by the blues, like throughout my whole entire time. Blues and jazz have sort of been more so blues, but like always sort of hitting that it's like a little sprinkle of jazz gives your
nice
blues playing some taste.
Slip into Lydian every now and then.
Yeah. And then like I think that's why Satriani appeals to me so much, is because he's sort of a mix of that. He's like that guitar player that has the chops, but also has a good feel and
Tasteful.
also makes music. Yeah. You know, it's where it's supposed to be. Like, I love Steve Vai. I think he's a great guitar player, but I don't necessarily listen to his music, if that makes sense. You know, like, I can appreciate what he does and he has good songs and all that, but like, I'm not like, oh man, I'm going to chill tonight and listen to
Totally.
Steve Vai, Alien Love Secrets. It's like, no, I'm not going to.
Have you checked out Gary Clark Jr. at all?
Well, that's why I asked if there was going to be a fifth, if I hit 5, because he is the first guitar player in years that has impressed the shit out of me.
Yeah.
There's a song he does live. It's like something with the train. I can't even remember now. I'm drawing total blank. Train, something about the train is in the station or whatever.
For sure.
I put it at the end of one NPR episode, and I can't tell you how many people contacted me and were like, I didn't know you like Gary Clark Jr.
Oh,
like,
nice.
I'm like, I just came across him and he's amazing. Like,
yeah.
Oh my
God.
God.
When you said you were into John Mayer and then bluesy stuff, like Gary Clark Jr. for sure.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I hope we can jam someday.
Yeah, that would be cool. Is that
right
what you're
on.
into? Blues? Like
well, I mean,
stuff?
I feel like you gotta, if you're gonna be a guitar player, you have to be rooted in the blues at some degree. That's soul, right? Like that's where you're putting emotion into the instrument. So I like music that's influenced by blues and jazz, but kind of masquerades as something else. But like at its core, that's what it's made of, you know?
Me too. 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Right on. All right.
Well, Eric, this has been absolutely a pleasure.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely.
If people that are still with us, thank you for sticking with us. You can check out what Eric's doing at
ebmorelia.com. And then the podcast is moreliapythonradio.com.
Awesome. And for me, Centralian Exotics, you're here, so you probably already know. I actually just built a freaking website, so go check that out, www.centralianexotics.com.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, I'd love your feedback. Still under construction, but it's a functioning website now. So.
Beautiful.
All right, so like I said, we'll have Owen on next, and thanks for tuning in to this episode. All right. Bye, everybody.